Okay, shall we begin?
Yes.
So today's session, great. So today's session, we will be talking about awareness sessions, which is a very important compliance under the POSH Act, and what are the nuances that we must bear in mind while conducting, while organizing, strategizing these awareness sessions. These are not some things which are clearly laid down under the law. So this is more of a practical insight session where we will be having a discussion as to what companies should be doing and should not be doing, whom is it for, what should we be bearing in mind while we will be organizing such sessions and for trying to fully comply with the provisions of the law. So in today's agenda, in today's presentation, we would be talking about what does the law actually say on conducting these awareness sessions? Why is it even required to conduct these sessions, these sensitization sessions, awareness sessions that we have? And who should it be conducted for? Who is the target audience over here? Why do companies need to do this? And common mistakes that actually happen while conducting these sessions and while strategizing and organizing these sessions. So what does the law say? So the act, the rules talk about the employer's responsibility over here. And one of the responsibilities, actually, we would probably bring in two over here. One would be to maintain a safe working environment, to comply with the law and provide an environment which is not hostile for women employees at the workplace. And how would you do about doing so are a couple of things which are laid down, out of which one of them is to conduct awareness and sensitization sessions for the employees at regular intervals. Now, the law does not require two sessions or three sessions or say after 6 months or after 12 months or after 3 months. It does not specify anything about how often or how many sessions do we need. And this is where just that strategy part of it comes into play as to how many sessions does a company need. Can it be an hour? Can it be 2 hours? And how often should it happen? So this is where companies need to go further and decide if your strength is say 10 employees, maybe one session would suffice, or a small refresher session at the end of the year. But if it's a big company with a big workforce and has a lot of high attrition also in the workforce, then there's a strategy to be involved over here that these sessions could be when the hirees are usually coming in. So say for instance, a company has a habit of hiring specifically in the month of July. So have a session in the July month when they are coming into the organizations as a part of their orientation induction program, coming into the organization, and maybe a session later which will be a refresher session, but equally rigorous and equally concentrating on the fact that it should be a knowledge update from what they would have understood at the time of induction. So these are few of the things that the company can bear in mind as to how often should it conduct sessions. Definitely at the time of induction, every new employee, even if they come not in a batch but as a solo hire, they should be getting an opportunity to sit through a session and probably either with some of the colleagues or alone as and when they come into the organization. And two sessions could be done per year. That is sometimes the minimum that we request companies, and we have seen a lot of companies that want to fully comply with the spirit of the law doing it, because we all know that one session once a year sometimes is not going to cut it out. It's not going to bring in the whole concept of what the law is all about, because in these awareness sessions, the employer is required to explain the law, to give the provisions of the law as to what does the law say, and also talk about the whole concept behind it. What is sexual harassment? What kind of behaviors does lead to sexual harassment? What consciously do employees need to keep a check on them? So these are some things that do not happen in one session, and especially if companies go for 1 hour session, these things do not happen in that that point of time. So this is where frequent amount of sessions helps in employees understanding the law, understanding the concepts of law. Something that we have also been talking about at Ungender through a period of time is small bursts of information over a period of time, which give capsules of information and allow the employee to digest these small bits and pieces over a period of time so that it gets understood by them in a more spaced out manner rather than a grueling session in one go, which sometimes employees are not able to digest everything or not able to take away everything from that session. So this is there is no hard and fast rule under the law. It's a gray area, and this is where the it has been left up to the companies to organize it to the best of their efforts, the best of their discretion, to make sure that the intent of law is conveyed to the employees, as well as the compliance, which is it's a big part of the compliance, and it's one of the foremost steps of compliance is taken care of in the most efficient manner over here. Pallavi, what are your thoughts over here?
No, absolutely, Suruchi. I will go back to that one line that is written in the law, right? It is the duty of the employer to ensure that awareness
Exactly.
sessions are conducted, right? And that automatically, because at the end of the day, if it is the duty of the employer, that means that tomorrow, if HR does not do something about it, the consequences are not on HR as an internal KRA or KPI violation, right? It's more about a legal non-compliance or legal violation that we are talking about.
Yep.
With that particular statement, yes, that is the only thing that the law has said, right? And everything else that it has not said, it has not specified whether how many sessions you should be doing, right? There is no end to it. We have seen companies which are doing one session every month just to ensure that they don't miss out on anybody, or with rampant hiring. Sometimes that is the reason, or the other reason is that they just want to make sure that people are constantly aware of the presence of IC, their rights, procedures. If there is further clarification required on what all could form as workplace sexual harassment, then let's keep giving them more avenues. In different ways, they are doing these awareness activities. And at the same time, law is also silent on how you should be doing it. Because I
Yeah.
remember now there are so many, e-modules and offline online sessions. Zoom sessions are pretty common also at, in the past 6-7 months, but companies are still wondering whether law is vocal about how these sessions have to be conducted. Are they supposed to be offline classroom sessions only? But that's once again where law has left it completely on the sensibility and understanding of an employer, that what works for your company, what works for your team, what works for your employees. And same thing, it has not provided any duration, it's not provided any frequency, it's not provided in what mode you should be doing. Just
Exactly.
plus one
Yes.
line, that is the duty of the employer to ensure that your employees are aware of their rights and responsibilities, and they're aware of where to go if ever there's any misconduct. Speaks volume about the kind of flexibility law has left at the in the hands of the employer, that do what is best to achieve this particular agenda, and you can strategize it internally any way that you want.
No, absolutely, and you're so right over here, right? Because at the end of the day, we've got the framework, but the even the government does not, or even the law did not emphasize that they need to micromanage any company on how to go about and so it's left up to the best, what you said is left up to the sensibility of the company, because the companies know how many employees are there. The companies know what kind of environment is there in the company. The company and the companies, if it were a company like us, if it were a company like Ungender, where we have such a remote working environment, where a pan India team, then having an offline session, if the law mandated an offline session, it would have been so difficult for us to implement it on a yearly basis, and even if we wanted to have on a regular interval. So
Oh,
it has left to the companies, and it has understood. I think the law envisaged over here that how varied business setups are now. And because of their varied business setup, like the variations in their organization structures, they can do whatever best modality they want to apply to do these sessions.
Right. And at the end of the year, I think how crucial this particular aspect is. It's also an element that you need to include in your annual compliance report, right? The number of awareness sessions conducted in the past 1 year. That's the first thing that the law is asking you to submit in your annual compliance report. And I nowhere once again it's written in the law or legal text that you have to maintain records. But in the past couple of years,
Exactly.
some of the
Yeah.
district officers have come back and they have started asking for the records. Especially, I believe this started with the district officer in Gurgaon, wherein they started asking companies that also attach the proof of the awareness programs that you are conducting.
Exactly. Yes.
And
Yes.
yes, while having one awareness program in the entire year is good enough for you to write it in the annual compliance report. um, I'm not even going into this discussion whether it's sufficient or not. Perhaps in some later slides we can look at it, but that's how crucial this particular activity is.
Absolutely. No, you're so right. And so this is strategizing these sessions, right? This is where the idea of the discussion of the company comes into play. And why would we even want to have these sessions? Why is it even there? Is what we said, right? It's a duty of the employer to make sure that the employees are aware of this law. So who is this mandate really for? Is it for the company? Is it for the employees? Technically, it's for both, because it is a compliance at the end of the day. It is a compliance which has to be recorded in the annual compliance report, which has to be submitted to the district officer at the end of the year. But it is also for the employees, because it is the duty cast upon the employer to make sure that the employees are aware of this law, and to make sure that the employees are aware of the procedure under law to how to come forward if any of these kind of incidents happen. So it is for both. It's
No, but
it's it's
Suruchi,
it's for,
sorry to interrupt. Let's take a step
sorry.
back on this particular slide, right?
Yeah.
And let's reflect on the conversations that we have had with employers or HR leaders, wherein it seems like that they are doing a favor by conducting these sessions, whereas if nobody is doing anybody a favor at the end of the day.
Correct.
It's not as if that in the in the act, when they said there is the duty of the employer, there was this mandate was there for the benefit of who, not an outsider, but this is for the benefit of the company as well as for the employees. But when we talk about it from the perspective of how it benefits the company, a lot of employers fail to understand that. Look at how it a lack of awareness manifests in people coming on social media platforms to talk about the incidents that have happened. Delayed
Absolutely.
complaints, women not filing a complaint for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, having experienced a misconduct. Not no women waiting to leave a company or find a better job to actually wait to file a complaint against that person. There's enough and more examples that have been, and I believe that is one of the reasons why this particular aspect or element was included as a duty of the employer, that do it for yourself.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
a selfish act, and do it like that only because at the end of the day, tomorrow, if somebody, whoever is there associated with your organization, does end up experiencing or extending a sexual misconduct, it's your company's brand at stake. Whatever is going to happen to that individual, whatever name will be dragged, that's a secondary thing. But because it's a workplace issue, your brand name will definitely be pulled out in the media, in newspapers, in whichever conversations that will happen around that misconduct. And that's how selfishly companies and their leaders need to think about it. that if there's something, and once again, taking a pause here, if there's something very amazing about my company, yes, I want that person to go all out and write about me. It doesn't matter even if they don't tell me. Go write all the amazing things. But even if there is a smallest negative thing about my organization that somebody has experienced, would you as a company not want to be the first one to know about it? Or do you want to hear about it from the world? And that's how
Yeah.
especially company leaders and employers and founders and owners need to look at this particular awareness program and awareness activity, that anybody feels even the slightest bit of negative experience, we want to be the first one to know this. We want to know who has done this. We want to be the first one to extend help and not wait for the rest of the world to know about it before us. So this question that is it more for the company or is it more for the employees? Absolutely, the lawmakers were thinking about women also. You know, why women don't complain. They don't know what will happen. They don't know what kind of retaliation is going to come their way. They do not know whether they will lose their job as a troublemaker. They do not know if they will have to continue working under the same person. They do not know whether their next performance appraisal will get affected by it. Because of all these reasons, women don't complain. And
Yeah.
going a little bit forward here, it's not just about educating or creating awareness amongst your women employees. You have to do it for your male employees also, and keeping the conversation purely binary here. Because when you only focus, there have been some organizations which only focus on educating their women employees, and they completely miss out on the male employees. Both you and I have seen this enough. It actually creates more hostility towards the female workforce. Now, as it is, men think that there is a law which has come purely to protect women. So why should we now have them in our team? Now, if we'll crack a joke, they can file a complaint of sexual harassment. Now, if we will call them after a specific work hour, they can file a complaint of sexual harassment. If we ask them a personal question, if we ask to drop them home, they can file a sexual harassment case. And exactly for all these reasons, to bust all these myths about what sexual harassment can be and cannot be, companies need to create this awareness. Otherwise, your employees will not be able to work in a cordial and free manner with each other. And that's how selfishly companies leaders need to think about it. And is it more for the company? Definitely companies benefit, right? There's a lot of loss of brand value that happens. We have seen enough number of companies
Absolutely.
going down because of this. And yes, in marketing there's a saying that any publicity is a good publicity. You definitely don't want your name in the golden books of, you know, sexual harassment cases in India, or the companies that went down because of sexual harassment cases in India. You don't want your name in that list. So definitely it is for the company and it is for the employees also. And for some strange reason, company leaders are still not able to think like that. Karan Supuri, any thoughts on this one from you?
I fully agree with you on this. But again, the point is, sometimes it's intriguing why people behave the way they behave. Uh, it just defies common sense. Uh, I mean, I understand प्यार हो जाता है, or I mean, there are a lot of other things also that are there in the workplace. But the basic point is everyone is educated enough to understand their own behavior at the workplace, which somehow I feel, for whatever reasons, the circumstances, environment, background we come from, these things just get, faded in the background. I am not sure whether I'm making any sense to you. Maybe because I'm coming from a different perspective, maybe because I'm trying to relate this to some incidents or cases that I've investigated. So, which is influencing me now.
No, could be. I mean, thanks for sharing that. I just wanted to add one more thing here, that I think, I believe companies take pride in not having any complaints, which is connected with people not knowing whether they can file a complaint. which is connected with people not even knowing on what basis they should file a complaint, whether there's any right or not. So this whole distorted understanding of we are a one happy family and everything is hunky dory in our company because we have zero cases is a fallacy. Not having any cases does not mean that your workplace is perfect. You still have to do the rest of the homework or groundwork for that matter. You have to put each and every aspect in place. You have to have policies. You have to make sure you educate your people. You have to make sure. It's almost like saying that across the river, I have made a police station. And I keep claiming that I've made this police station, this new police station for the benefit of the villagers, but we don't have any complaints. Nobody comes. This village does not need any police protection. But if you go to the village and you ask them that why are you not using this, then they tell you that, oh, we did not even know that there's a new police station that has been created just for us. We did not even know on what instances we can go there. And third, and the most important thing is, there's no connectivity also, which if I have to put in a company scenario, no policies in place, nobody is communicating it to them, and there's no proper complaint filing system that has been put in place. So by not having these core fundamental elements in place, if a company ends up having zero complaints, there is no pride in it.
Absolutely. Pallavi, if I may, this particular aspect of leaders taking pride in not having any complaints at all has always, I found it so intriguing. If I may put a number to it, amongst all the senior leaders, scores of them that I've come across, not only in the organization that I've worked in, but even otherwise where I've conducted training sessions, interacted with large number of leaders in some of the biggest groups in the country. If you ask me to put a number to it, I can confidently recall only one leader who walked up to me and said, I will encourage reports. I want people, my employees, to file reports. Just one, which is what is, relating to the point that I was talking about. We're all educated people. Yet to me, it seems to be so simple that if your employees are talking, it is a very healthy sign. It means people are, not scared to speak up. People are speaking up as a wonderful sign. Let people talk. Let people say whatever they want to. It is a direct reflection of your leadership, of your style of management. What people are talking reflects on you. If they're not talking, that means they're not talking at all about your personality, about your leadership, which is terrible to me. So this and the other one point that we discussed once earlier about conducting initial inquiries to find out whether an investigation should be conducted or not. These 2 points just seem to defy logic completely to me. I just fail to understand how can people even think of it. It's ridiculous. Thanks.
No, it is, and that's exactly how the most common theme of conversation has been around this. And I remember a couple of years ago when a lot of companies started asking that, but Pallavi, Suruchi, we don't have any complaints. Do we still have to file annual compliance report? And then we had to remind them that please look at the elements of the annual compliance report. Even if you have zero complaints, that's okay. But how about awareness program? This is still an element that you need to file with the district officer. So you may have zero complaints and you may have those other 4 elements, you can leave them as nil, but this is still one area of activity which is not dependent on somebody else, but which is purely dependent on you as an organization. This was the role that you had to play. And if I look at it from a long-term perspective, I think somewhere, hopefully someday we will be able to collate all these things, and we will also be able to see the pattern that the companies where there were more awareness sessions being conducted, there were more complaints which were coming out, which instead of looking at those companies, and we looked at it in one of our previous session also, where I remember when Wipro, Infosys, companies of these sorts, they were ranked as the highest number of the companies with the highest number of complaints, based on some survey. I'm completely forgetting. Suruchi, if you remember, please I think because according to EY or NASSCOM, but there was some report which said that these
Yeah.
are the companies with the highest number of complaints coming out. And there was a lot of shaming, and the way it was being written was quite ridiculous, because we should be celebrating companies which, yes, there are more complaints, but we need to understand all the hard work that goes into creating that faith, trust, and propping up your team members, your large employee base, to a level where they actually find the confidence to come to the committee. And when they come to the committee, you are not brushing it away. You're actually looking at them, even if they increase your number of complaints in a year. So that's the narrative, and that's the mindset shift that is required here. So every time, an employer asks that, is it a mandate? Why should I do it? How many should I do it? Who is it working for? Why should I invest in this? These are the answers that yes, the law had in mind, that you do it for yourself, you do it to save your own reputation, you do it for future consequences. And the only way that I have looked at this whole law, and especially these awareness activities, is like a vaccination. Please get your vaccine done. Right, you get your vaccination done. After that, if you don't get any disease, please don't complain about it. You did your work. That's exactly why you're not falling sick. So it's a good thing, but companies don't understand that.
If I may just add, there are companies that add a cost to the element of training also in this. बजट नहीं है अभी, वो कॉस्ट कटिंग चल रहा है. It sounds so ridiculous, lame excuses not to conduct these trainings.
Really, I think
Maybe
that's
we should do a
really lame.
session on the number of reasons and the kind of reasons for not doing awareness sessions.
Yeah, we should actually do that.
Anyway, yes, Suruchi, let's go. Let's move ahead.
Yeah. So when we do these activities, we should also be bearing in mind the kind of audience, the kind of people that we are conducting these activities for, right? I mean, the law states that the employee definition is so wide. It includes all kinds of employees who are on your payrolls, who are hired directly, indirectly, who are volunteers, who are interns, who are probationers, who are hired on contractual basis, consultancy basis. So all these employees who are there on our, who are working with our company, who are associated with it, are our audience. It's for the benefit of them. It's for the benefit of the awareness of them, of their sensitization, that these sessions, these awareness activities need to be conducted. And this is where companies come and curate these sessions according to the kind of audience that they are looking at. Say, for instance, if it's an audience which is full of blue collar employees, then their sessions can be conducted in a language that they would understand, especially if they are not so well versed with English. I mean, so many times Angender has conducted these awareness sessions in Hindi itself, because we have been talking to factory workers, and they are not so conversant with English, so that we make sure that the law, the principles, the provisions of the law come across and have been explained to them properly. We have conducted these sessions in Hindi. So this is where companies need to understand who are they talking to, what kind of employees are they talking to, who all are they going to be covering in these sessions. All employees associated in any manner need to be covered in these sessions. Also, that any person visiting the organization as a client, as a vendor, as a third party visitor is also protected under the law. So these employees need to be made to understand that they are also to be extending that policy, extending that behavior to any visitor coming into the organization. So over here, when strategizing these awareness sessions, these awareness activities, the key target, the stakeholder, who who's the employee base over here needs to be kept in mind, and accordingly the sessions need to be curated in that manner so that the message comes across, so that what the agenda is to sensitize them about the law and the procedure and the law and the concepts of law, especially sexual harassment, comes across to them in as simple language as possible. There, as we already discussed, that there is no certain module that we need to follow, right? And the law states that there could be modules which could be released by the government and the employers could follow those modules, but there are no modules at this point of time. So it's upon the employer to make these sessions as friendly, as understandable as possible for their audience, who is their employee base over here. Pallavi, any thoughts over here?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, I think for employers, Suruchi, the main confusion is who all should we cover? How many should we cover, right? If you go back, and I think I should have included that, missed that, but it's not just your full-time employees, your part-time employees,
Exactly.
your interns, your third-party hires. I remember a few days ago, I was talking to this company's representative, and they asked that how do you go about it, and in the process of explaining this, I told them that we will also be reviewing, your vendor agreements and your third party hire contracts. And that person just asked me that why do you need to see those? Right? And of course, there's a legit question there, but that's what this law is saying, that if even your third party hires or individuals, whoever is representing your brand, we don't know what kind of vendor arrangement is there. So in order to see whether they will be representing your brands, or either we can put across these questions to the employers themselves or the stakeholders, internal stakeholders, or we can just look at those agreements and we can identify whether they will be carrying the brand name forward. And then they will also need to be covered in the awareness program. They will also need to be included in the awareness program. There was this one organization that we were working with who had these physical stores, which were being handled by distribution partners. And they were about 110 distribution channel partners, which this company had. And they all were serving the products through physical stores and carrying the brand name. Now, all these places, whoever as a customer or as a stakeholder will be engaging in all those 110 distribution stores across India, they don't know that person. They're going there because they read the brand name of this parent company, of this parent brand. So if ever some misconduct happens there, they will be taking the name of this brand only, that where did it happen? Who was this person? And the words that will come out will, this happened in this so-and-so brand's office when I had gone there for so-and-so work. And that's how each and every brand needs to think about that. Who is your audience? Who exactly you should be covering? Either you educate them or you make sure that they are aware of what kind of conduct is allowed as part of this, even this vendor and supplier agreement.
Absolutely.
And at the first job is, we'll be covering it in the next one, but is to identify for each and every organization that who exactly is the audience for this organization. For companies which do not have a brick and mortar model, but everything is online and their customers are coming online, especially for e-commerce sites, right?
Yeah.
That's their audience. Their customers are there. Their help chat people, their chat support people, all these individuals, your customers are dealing with them, and you don't even know where these people are sitting. So you need to make sure that if ever a customer does experience any misconduct, how do they reach out to your internal committee? You don't have to conduct awareness programs for them, but that's what the law is saying, right? That you have to create awareness. Sometimes it will be through programs, sometimes it will be through email communications, or it could just be a policy, or it could just be a notification. But it's the duty of the employer to create awareness. Programs is just manifestation of it, just one side to it. And that's how the audience needs to be defined. That's it from my end, actually.
No, and it's so true, right? I mean, especially in e-commerce, the example that you gave about who's sitting across from those employees also. So many times, I think probably this would be one of the company mistakes that they do, is that they only think about their employee base and they only think about making people aware internally, and they don't think about how employees are interacting with people from outside the organization. Are they following the policies when they are interacting with people from in hospitality industry, right? In hospitality industry also, I mean, conducting an awareness session to make sure that the employees internally know about the law, and conducting an awareness session to make sure the employees deal with each other properly. But they are not told that, every day there are going to be thousands of customers coming into the hotel, say for instance a hotel. How do you treat them? If you do any misbehavior with them, that they can file a complaint against you, they can go ahead against you. Some people do not even know about that. Like, I have come across personally so many examples in the hospitality industry where they don't even know that if a customer walks in, or a hotel guest walks in, or a spa guest walks in, they are equally entitled to protection as any other employer, as any other colleague of yours within that organization itself. So this is where, this is where how we need to curate these models and see what industry is it at, what kind of employee base are we looking at. We are looking at every kind of employee over here, because let's face it, the definition of employee under the act is so wide, right? It includes everybody under the sun who's associated with your organization, and the person who can file a complaint can include the person inside the organization as well as somebody who's visiting the organization.
Yeah, and I think the
over
most
here.
tricky part is this act even covers the volunteers, right? With
Yes,
NGOs, we have
yes,
most commonly that they have volunteers working with them all the time with maybe some contract or some agreement, or maybe no contract or agreement, and these volunteers usually get associated for a specific project, for a day, for a couple of hours. Maybe they have to, maybe they had to do a plantation drive, or
yeah,
they had to go and interact with some school children, or they had to stand across different areas of the city to distribute some pamphlets and all. But and that's where companies mainly miss out with NGOs, especially. That's what's been happening, that you don't look at investing in volunteers to brief them on how they should be, even for that 1 hour that they are there. We have seen cases. I think this one was when there were some couple of volunteers who were taken from the college for representing and assisting this NGO, which was doing these awareness programs among the school children. And some college students had volunteered from that same city. Now, while those college students were there in the school, they actually they also extended some inappropriate conduct towards the two of the teachers in the school. Now, the complaint was filed to the college, and the college then brought it back to the NGO. And it is definitely the NGO's fault, because that's how the school got introduced to those two students, right? Why were they there? They were there because this NGO had reached out that if we want to conduct these programs, and these two college students as volunteers were part of the team. Now, for them, it doesn't matter whether these two individuals were volunteers or full-time employees or not, but they were there because this NGO was given the permission to be there. So it all falls under the workplace sexual harassment. And yes, it's not possible or practical that for those 2 hours, if somebody is getting associated, you will take out time to conduct a full-fledged awareness session. But you should still take out time to make sure that they are aligned with the kind of conduct that they should do or do not. Forget about
absolutely.
the do part. I think at least specifically briefing them on don'ts is very
Don't.
it's okay if you don't if you don't end up uh, 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 pleasing or overdoing the positive part, but at least you should not do something which is not allowed under the law.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it's so correct, right? Because they believe that these volunteers are there only for a few hours, so why put in the effort? But do's and don'ts kind of a thing only can go such a long way. And even for project based employees, so many times you feel that okay, this person has only come in on board for a certain project for like a month. Why do we need to invest time in telling that person about the awareness and the sensitization policy and the framework in our company? But this is where the intent to comply with law comes into place, and the whole requirement that yes, whosoever gets associated with your company, be for howsoever short project it may be or how short duration it may be, everybody needs to be covered under the law. Everybody needs to be told.
Yeah, I think in one of our sessions, let's cover this thing also, wherein how in these extended chain of employee base, you can create legal divides and boundaries to protect yourself.
Absolutely, and it's so important given the scenario that is changing, and now that the gig labor has come into effect, which is so rampant at this point of time. I mean, employers can always put their hands up and say that okay, but these are gig laborers, these are consultants, these are contractual based employees, we don't really care about it, they can do whatever they want. That is not the case, right? It is becoming all the more important to adapt to new ways to comply with the law.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on and let's tackle probably the last issue over here, which is mistakes by companies.
The first mistake I want to tell, not conducting sessions at all.
Yeah, exactly. That was also something that I was going to say first.
I think that's the first
not
mistake.
conducting.
Not conducting the sessions at all, thinking that no session, no problem. It's almost like saying the no woman, no problem with this. All that's another thing that we have heard, that if we don't have any women in our team, Pallavi, we will not have any sexual harassment, which is, I think, the most ridiculous thing that I have heard. I don't know about Suruchi if there's something more ridiculous than that, but so not conducting any session at all is, I think, the biggest mistake. It just means that if there are things that are happening, situations which are happening, you are not coming across as a company where your employees can come and talk to you about it. So if they're not going to come and talk to you about it, if not today, if not tomorrow, a few years down the line, whenever, they will end up talking about it. So at the end of the day, it's your loss only. You may not feel it right now. It's a short win, I will say. It's a very short and a very cheap win. A very expensive win, sorry. It's a short and expensive win, because when the day comes that that person will actually speak about it, it's going to create a huge damage. So that's the first mistake. Second mistake, what have you observed?
Conducting really short sessions, I think that would be a case. Fine, especially this is like a check mark for the annual compliance report, and they're like, okay, fine, we will conduct a session, but we will conduct it as short as possible. Our employees are so nice to each other. We never have any complaints ever. So why should we even put in so much of effort? You just come by, just chit chat with them for probably an hour max, and then that's it. We are done. We'll take 1 or 2 photos about the session, and we'll be like, okay, we have taken one session, and that's it. Our compliance is over. I think that is one of the big mistakes that companies do. Thinking, having this false conception that yes, they have complied with the law, and yes, they have done the deed, and that's all that matters to them at the end of the day.
That's
so
true.
I think this would be one of the mistakes that I see companies making.
Okay, my turn. Another mistake that I see companies making is covering only their head office or corporate office for the awareness session, and thinking that if we can do it here, that's good enough, because other places we don't really have to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely. And they think that, I think in these situations, they think that head office is the only office that matters. No other office, probably even factories don't matter. I think another mistake that I would want to go for is not covering your factory workers, because you think that there are too many in number. So how would we even cover them? And also because we are so used to covering the session in certain languages, like say English, and they're like, okay, but factory workers will not even understand what will you go there and do. Let them just, if anything comes up, let them just come to the HR person or IR person, whoever is there in the company, and let them deal with it. So you don't need to go ahead and do anything about it. So let's just cover head office. Everything else will be taken care of.
I agree. Next mistake that I can think of is conducting sessions, but with an umbrella agenda. That you don't design the session for the audience. It's once again, I'll put it in the category of just doing a check in the box thing. Yes, but here there's a slight difference that you have the companies open enough to cover everyone, but they are not open enough to invest in strategizing the facilitation for that. So, for example, what you do for leadership will be very different from what you will do for, let's say, your front-facing, employee base, customer-facing employee base. What you will do for your plant employees will be very different from what you will do for your sales audience, and so on and so forth. Especially call center. The examples and situations that you will give for them and the contextualization that you will create for them will be very different from what you will do for your back-end office staff or admin or support staff. And when companies are not investing in it, what they're doing is they're rolling out these batches of sessions wherein they announce it to their employees that come and join as you are comfortable with your schedule. But there's no contextualization which is happening for employees, and that's another mistake, because as it is, people are not interested in a topic which is workplace sexual harassment.
Exactly.
it's a huge people walk into these conversations with a huge mental barrier. Attention span is very less. If the conversation is not relevant for them, if the examples and the situations are not something that they can relate with, it's a useless activity. And to be very honest, it's also wastage of money and time for both the company as well as for the person who is facilitating them. And sometimes it ends up doing more damage than doing any positive effect. So that's another mistake.
One mistake that I would see is, not attacking the concept of harassing behavior, because some companies just go about like, just tell them the law that there is a redressal. This is the definition of harassment, and this is what the law says, and just tell them that if anything ever happens to them, they can come to the IC and complain to the IC. But not going into the root of the concept, how to make them understand how wide the concept is of, give them illustrations, case studies, make them really understand the whole concept of it. It is fine, tell them there is a IC sitting there. Of course, they have to be knowing that there's an IC sitting there, but it is also important to tell them that why would anybody take you to the IC? What is it that you did that has taken you to the IC, so that they understand, not to scare them, but they need to understand what kind of behavior, and especially women sitting in these sessions, they need to understand that this is also kind of a behavior that you can always speak up against. If you feel that it has affected you so badly, and of course, it's all about their subjective, it's all about their perception. If they feel that it has affected them so badly, they should come up and say something about it. So I think not going to the root of the concept by just having a very superficial kind of a session planned out for the employees is also one of the mistakes I feel companies do.
Yeah, and an extension to that is not providing sufficient time to address the procedure of the committee, right? The investigation procedure. Most of the people that I have spoken to, both you and I, and correct me if there has been a different experience at your end, most of the people when we speak to have actually not understood what this law is giving as a right to both parties, the complainant as well as the respondent. Commonly believe that this is a one-sided law. That means that today, if I file a complaint, so one, I have the right to feel bad and be offended at anything. Like even if someone will come and put a cub in front of me, it's because the law has said it's the perception of the woman that will take priority. I can feel sexually harassed at this particular action, and I can go and file a complaint, and the committee will actually find that person guilty and will take some action against them. Majority of the people are living out there with this kind of understanding, whereas the law is far, far away from how it is understood. So, not taking out enough time to walk people through what happens when you bring a complaint, right? Having the right to bring a complaint to the committee vis-a-vis also the right of the respondent to provide their version of the activities and principles of natural justice. What does it mean to have a fair and just investigation? So going into the depth of how IC investigates and what are the rights of both the parties or all the parties in that matter is something that is completely missed out from the awareness sessions right now. And that's a huge mistake. It's like you're opening up the Pandora's box and you start telling people, actually, no, that's a wrong analogy. So you're telling people that, hey, there's something very powerful that has now entered workplaces, and now women can do this and men cannot do this, and then you leave it at that.
Yeah.
You know, just that's it. That's the end of your story. You know, and what you're saying, they don't explain the distinction between gender-based discrimination versus sexual harassment versus workplace sexual harassment. Don't say that, okay, now if you do this, then what will happen? If you complain, what happens? If you are a respondent, then what happens? All these things are not covered, and that just does more damage. I think if a company is planning to do this kind of session, they might as well not do it. It's more damaging.
Absolutely, completely agree with that.
Your turn.
I think not making them understand why these sessions are happening is one of the mistakes I see companies doing quite often. Because I think this was one of the sessions that we had, Pallavi, done for those factory workers in Delhi. And so many of them, they have not been told as to why they have to come over here. Why are they being called for this kind of session? Why am I present over there? And they take offense. On contrary, they understood that, but madam, nothing like this ever happens in our organization. I don't know why we are supposed to go through this kind of a session. And this is something that the HR or the IR, this is something that the employer needs to make them understand. Why is a professional person being called over to make them understand about the law? Why do we need to do these kind of sessions? Why are we doing them frequently? This is something that should come from the employer itself. So, of course, we are there to tell them that, why are we conducting this session? But the fact that they have suddenly been called for a session, they feel it's like a punishment for them. So, while we may not always think of it as a mistake, but making them understand the reason, making them understand the requirement, making them understand the importance prior to them attending will make them at ease. And, how you said that they anyway come with a barrier in their heads. So that barrier, it becomes more like an issue of punishment. Why do we have to attend these kind of sessions? This is like are you telling us that we do these kind of activities? Are you pointing fingers at us? So this is probably one thing that probably the last thing that I would want to say is like a mistake by the company of not making them understand the value and the takeaway and the importance of these kind of sessions.
No, I have one more.
Yeah, tell me.
So another mistakes that companies end up making is look at these awareness session as any other kind of gender sensitization session. We are doing it to bring the genders together, create better sensitivity and understanding amongst them, and they completely miss out on the legal aspect of it. So what we usually end up doing is confusing it with biases or gender discrimination. And these three things are very different. POSH awareness session are different from gender sensitization session, are different from bias addressal sessions. And companies have to understand that these three pan out very differently. They have very different objectives and agenda. and their manifestation. And I'm not even, I have one more actually. So I will see if you will lose or I will lose, Ruchi, here in the mistakes game. But this is another mistake that company make. They think that all these three things are same, because clients will come asking for, we want to conduct gender sensitization session, and then we're like, have you done POSH awareness? No, you can cover that in that only. You can't cover because the time is limited.
You can't.
You can't
Exactly.
cover both the things in same session. So that's another mistake. Your turn. Yes, Colonel Sapuri will call you. Wait, I have to see if Srushti wins or loses this one.
After Saruchi.
Yeah. Okay, I'm out of mistakes. Sorry, I concede over here.
Okay, Colonel Sapuri, what do you have to say?
So I have a couple of points here.
Sure.
Now, firstly, when we talk about the law, at a very fundamental level, what we basically try to convey is the law prohibits this.
Yeah.
The law does not allow this. This is a violation. So inherently, we focus on the negative aspects of the law. Now, as a male employee, to me, this is very intimidating.
Yeah.
So far I've been dealing with women employees at the workplace, but I never thought of these points, right? So I'm scared. As a result, I'm not told this is okay, this is not okay. So while we talk about do's and don'ts, the overemphasis is on the don'ts, not on the do's. So I'm confused as a male employee. Should I continue to behave in the manner I was doing, or I don't know? So I'm scared, right? Now this takes me to the second point, which is, you know, the men tend to get into a fear psychosis. So let me give you a couple of actual examples that I've faced. A woman employee walks up to me and says, it's not a complaint, but it's a very peculiar thing that I've noticed with my boss, who's a male employee. So I don't know what to do about it. It's not a complaint. So she says, in all sincerity and honesty, she says, we women do some makeup and come. We apply lipstick, thoda makeup karke aate hain. My boss does not even look up to me every day. So when I go and talk to my boss, he puts his head down and he's staring at the laptop. Trust me, this actually happened with me. And she's mentioned other women employees, and she says others also feel like this. So my boss should at least look up to me, na? I mean, मैं makeup करके मतलब देखे तो मेरी तरफ. So I am flabbergasted. So I said, you should be very happy about it. She says, no, I want my boss to look up to me. There should be at least some eye contact. When I talk to the boss says, that session that you conducted, the other people conducted on POSH, staring is prohibited. Even that can be misconstrued as sexual harassment. So I don't look up to into the eyes of my women employees, lest there be a complaint against me. So I'm scared.
Yeah.
In another incident, there's a senior leader who has a senior woman employee reporting into him, and they have to travel, as I mentioned earlier. The headquarters is based out of Pune, and there are multiple satellite industrial townships around Pune, and this leader has to travel frequently to some of these locations. And being in an important function, the woman employee also has to accompany the person. So this leader drives his car and the lady accompanies the gentleman, and they're perfectly fine. I mean, the lady is absolutely comfortable. There's absolutely no problems. So this gentleman leader attends a session, and immediately the next day after that, he tells the lady, you please come in a separate car, don't travel with me.
Okay.
So the lady says, what's happened to you? He says, no, I don't want to get into pangas. If somebody watches me traveling with you, people would have already seen me a number of times going with you. This can be misunderstood by people. So you please travel in your car, I'll travel in my car. The point is, inadvertently, without realizing, we tend to go overboard in trying to project only the don'ts of the law. So, we need to be very sensitive in also emphasizing the do's part. It's perfectly normal if the relationship is professional, which needs to be communicated even to the women, that at times men can be very sensitive to these aspects as well. So if a male boss is not looking at the woman employee, even that the male employee perceives all that also as why should I take a risk? It's better not to look at the women employee. That can also be misconstrued. That's going overboard. So I thought I should mention this because these are practical aspects, and we need to be sensitive to these things. That's all.
Yeah.
No, that's very true, Colonel Supuri. Sorry, Suchi, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
No, I was in fact going to say the same thing only. It's very true. Because technically the only, when I was being trained, when I was in the law firm and we had our first training session, this is the mentality that one of the partners who was giving us the training went ahead with it, and it said that don't do this or you will be fired, or, don't behave like this to women or you will be fired. So the emphasis was on the don't, and the emphasis was on the you don't do this else you will get fired from your job. So I felt it was a very badly put place, badly explained kind of a session. And it was unfortunately one of the very good law firms who had done it this way. But I completely understand what you're saying, because so many companies, so many organizations do the mistake of conducting the sessions in such a negative manner that all the men are like, okay, now we should not be doing anything to any girl. We should not even be looking at any of them because, lest any complaint is filed against us.
That's true. I want to state one last reason.
Yeah.
I think one more mistake that companies make is, and it's a very fundamental level mistake, is this should be done as part of some social initiative and not from the business. That this is some Samaj Seva work that we are doing. Just come and talk to our people and give them some lecture. We don't care what you tell them. Just tell them how to be with each other, how to behave with each other, and why they should respect women and how they should respect women and all those things. Not understanding the business case or business aspect of having these sessions, and looking at them as just any other kind of social activity. And I think until a couple of years ago, and even right now, it's so sad to see that most of the organizations conduct or club their Women's Day activities with the posh awareness session, thinking that they are doing it as part of a gift to the company. That's the last mistake from my end, and I win.
If I may just add to this, Pallavi.
Yes, Colonel Supuri.
Being ethical and promoting diversity, getting gender representation as well, is a huge business proposition. It's a necessity. And there have been large number of research works done, especially in the West, and the findings conclusively prove that it is profitable to get a diverse section of the population in the organization. In fact, if I may put my neck out and say that in the hundreds of cases that I've investigated, especially of financial irregularities, I have never come across a case where a woman employee has been terminated for financial impropriety. I'm not saying men are corrupt. I'm saying probably a few hundred male employees may have been terminated for financial irregularities. And otherwise also, if you search the media, amongst all the cases of financial scams that you study globally, you'll probably struggle to get a few women in that, right? So simply put, if you're ethical, if you have women employees in your organization, there are high chances that your organization will be ethical, and therefore in the long run you will be more profitable than others, with everything else being same.
No, we didn't say it. It's you said it, and it's a man saying it. See, the problem is,
Exactly.
Colonel Sapuri, to be very honest,
Exactly.
um, the fallback of talking about gender and especially gender-specific laws is that whenever we talk about gender, we usually end up talking about the suppressed gender, which right now is women and the other genders. Yes, men are also going through a lot of suppression. Nobody is discounting that, but this is the general stereotype and thought process that the minute you say, oh, we work in gender issues area, it's automatically assumed that you will favor one gender over the other, which is not really the case. That's why I said that it's you who said it, right? And we don't want to put it as if it's coming from us, because women favoring women should not be the narrative that we want to build. It's more about inclusion. It's more about ensuring that yes, and there have been enough case studies out there, not in India so much, but in the West at least, that diversity does boost business growth. We have yet to see those case studies in India. But thank you for
Yeah,
sharing
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Suruchi, were you able to think of something, or shall we move forward?
No, I think I'm done with this. And I think we've covered almost every kind of mistake that companies make. And let's go probably to the last slide. And over here, this is more like a slide to make companies understand, to formulate a task list and try to streamline their awareness activities, understand why they're doing certain activity, who is this certain activity for, what will the activity comprise of, where will it happen. So in order to streamline, in order to strategize these sessions better, it's always handy to check these boxes as to who are you doing it for, why are we doing it, how are we doing it, and where are we doing it. So this is probably the last slide that we had for you for today. Pallavi, any thoughts over here as to
No,
how
I
to
think this
best?
is no, I think this is where the companies get to cover, right? That you need to make sure that your conversation when it comes to awareness should be very different for let's take an example, employer or the owners of a business, because they need to have a different kind of awareness about this law. Any violation, any non-compliance can either call for monetary fine on their business. It can call for business license cancellation. It can call for worst, extreme, right? Even jail term. So for the owners of the business, it's very important to understand this law, and the awareness should be done very differently. Similarly, for your leadership team, your HR team, your employees, even employee segment needs to be divided very differently, from client facing to back end office to mobile workforce to employees who are scattered everywhere and do not really have an office space and do not have the sense that, okay, we are, for them, the workplace or office environment is very different. And this list can go on and on when we talk about the who. So you have to fill the who part first and then write down why you are doing it for them. What exactly are you going to achieve? What's the agenda there? And where exactly you'll be doing it, online, offline, on phone, through email, through posters. How are you going to create these awareness? And keep measuring whether something is working or not working. I mean, just doing a session one time is not going to solve it. So there has to be some feedback mechanism in place. There has to be some check and balance in place, knowing that because of course one session is not enough. So where did you leave it? Where are your employees starting this journey from? Where have you taken them in your first session? Where are you planning to take them in your next future sessions? Is very important. And that's how you design your awareness sessions.
No, absolutely. And, taking advantage of that flexibility that we have received under the law is so crucial, right? To make the maximum out of it. And of course, as you said, it's a penal offense. it will be attracting a penalty, a fine, imprisonment, or both, or just like compliance activity that they need to conduct, and if it is strategized effectively, then
Suruchi?
sorry, did you lose me?
Yes, I was not able to hear you. Okay.
Sorry, internet issues.
Yes. No, we were anyway on our last slide, so I think we're good.
Yeah.
You were saying something.
No, yeah. So I was saying that it's a business compliance activity, right? As we have already discussed it, and it's one of the common mistakes that companies do by not considering it as a business compliance activity. So strategizing it effectively as to who the audience is going to be, who are going to be the stakeholders, and giving the law giving us flexibility as to how many times we can conduct it, online or offline, is something that companies should take advantage of, and effectively implement those modules, and whether do it by e-module, offline module, whether do it through online teaching courses, online training courses, whatever they want to do, is something that companies should take advantage of, so that they can comply with the law, as well as make sure that they're not just complying for the sake of compliance, but to actually comply with the law.
No, that's true. That's true. And I think that calls for the end of this session. Any question, Karan Sapuri? Any thoughts? Any question? Any notes?
Oh, thank you very much. Wonderful session. Very informative as always. Thanks.
All right, then we'll see you next weekend. We will announce the learning session schedule for the month of October very soon on our website, and we'll also keep you posted on our emails.
Sure. Thank you very much. Look forward to attending the next one too.
Take care. Stay safe.
You too. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Suruchi. Thanks, Pallavi.
Thank
Happy
you.
weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy weekend.
Bye.